Yeah, real life. Hey, hi, hello everyone. Good morning, good evening, depending on which part of the world
Uh,
you're joining from. Uh, Hi Devansh, hi
okay, so
Anupriya, and hi everyone joining us live. Uh, Let me just go and quickly check. That's a standard part of my habit that I always go and check if it's streaming live,
mhm,
without any hassle whatsoever. We don't want people to get left out. Yeah, so we are live.
I think we are
Cool,
live. Yeah.
awesome.
Okay,
So
so let
first
me
off,
begin.
go
Uh,
ahead, Devansh.
okay, hello everyone. I am Devansh Bharadwaj, the Secretary of Data Science Group at IIT Roorkee. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to the kickoff session of the LLM and RAG Bootcamp, which is an exciting initiative collaboratively organized by the Data Science Group at IIT Roorkee, Pathway, and Student Technical Council of IIT Roorkee. Joining me today is one of our senior members, Anupriya, who will be co-hosting the session alongside me. Uh, Anupriya, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining in and great to see you all here. So as you must already know that this cohort is a collaborative initiative by Pathway, DSG and STC of IT Roorkee. And we're very excited to be conducting this 3 week RAC and LLM boot camp. It's going to be full of learning and we're glad that you're here to pump your curiosity. So a little bit about Pathway, which you might already know. It's a leading generative AI company and it is led by remarkable individuals. So the CEO Susanna has articles published by the National Academy of Sciences USA, and the CTO Jan has actually co-authored papers with Joshua Benjo and Geoffrey Hinton, who are two of the three godfathers of AI. So really amazing leaders and individuals like building this company. And as you also know that this is a lot of effort has been put in to conduct this 3 week boot camp smoothly for all of you. So make sure that you put in all of your efforts and be excited and keep that energy throughout the 3 weeks and put your all in this boot camp so that you can learn as much as you as we want you to, and also you'll have so much fun with it. So now I'll hand over the mic to Mudit Srivastav, who is the Director of Growth at Pathway, to give you more details and insights about this bootcamp.
Thanks, Anupriya. Thanks, Devansh. By the way, that was a pretty concise and nice description of Pathway and myself. So thanks for doing that. I would really take that as a benchmark that I should look up to. So now we'll dive straight into the session. I see there are people joining us still. So
Mhm.
this like it's always best to join live so you can ask any doubts. So this is a YouTube link, so you can ask doubts via the comment section. We can see who's asking the doubts. That's an easy way for you to connect with us also. You can simply drop a hi as well, so I'll get to know your name. We can connect that way, or we can connect on socials, like the standard way to go about it. Okay. So let me just go and quickly start sharing my screen and taking you to the steps like about the boot camp. So yep, I'll just hit present. Can you see my screen? Can you see this particular
Yeah,
deck?
it is visible.
Yeah, cool. Perfect. So, first of all, welcome to this particular boot camp. Anupriya did a great job introducing all three of us. A quick additional information about, I'm assuming most of the folks are from IT Roorkee and the network around it. If you're beyond it, so you would be like, if you like, this is how, because in the past boot camps that we've done with other IITs or research institutes in India or different parts of the world, we've seen there are people who are from like other geographies who join, so welcome in that case. And IT Roorkee and DSG is the data science group, a student guild, which takes care of the AI and data culture there. And IT Roorkee is one of the premier institutes. Pathway is an open source framework maker. It's primarily known for creating the world's fastest data processing engine for batch streaming and LLM applications. Now, I would be curious to ask this. Like, I'm quite curious to ask this. Like, how many of you know what streaming is? Because as I'm throwing this jargon, it'll be interesting to know how many of you have worked on streaming or you know what streaming is. So maybe you can hit on comments if you already know about it. When we say it's about LLM streaming and batch, what is batch? What is streaming? We are publishing something around batch today itself. But then, if you know it already, that will be good. Cool. I'll give a very quick introduction of what these things are. as we are talking about these things. So whenever you look at building AI applications, or let's skip AI. Even if you look at data applications at scale, typically there are like two ways of processing data. Okay, one is that okay, you have a huge amount of data, so you build a pile of it and do all the transformations and processing all at once, and then push it forward. Like take it this way. For example, if you have to wash your clothes in hostels, there are two ways to wash it. One is that you pile it up in a laundry bag, pick it up over the weekend, and then wash it all together. Okay, and then you create batch essentially. That is how you can process data as well. Like when you work on models, you will fine tune them once in a while, right? That's why you're working with batches of data. Other option is that as soon as the data is coming in, you're processing it then and there. Like as soon as the cloth is getting dirty, you're washing it then and there. You're not keeping it up for the weekend. Now, in the case of data, this opens up a lot of possibilities and a lot of complications, which is why traditionally streaming was not so extremely adopted, because we're talking about parallel processing here, we're talking about distributed computing, and also a good amount of compute to be available with you, and some really smart engineers to build these frameworks. So up until a good amount of time, most of the applications, in fact, even today, most applications that you look at are batch in nature. Let me give an example of an application that runs on streaming. An example would be Google Maps. So if you look at Google Maps, let's say you have to go from point A to point B in Roorkee, and there is something that has happened in the street next to you. Okay, so it's not that the maps will wait for a data scientist to sit at the table and then update the models, fine tune them, and then it will say that, you know what, this is the current situation. No, as soon as something happens, it knows that this is what has happened. This is the route that it should be predicting. So that's how. That's because it is. These models are real time ML models that Google Maps is working on. And if you look at Pathway, it's also very commonly used in real time ML. It's also used for like normal data processing use cases as well. So it's like the likes of NATO uses it, Formula One teams uses it. So like for example, you have 200 plus sensors in it. So for those of you IoT enthusiasts out here, I'll give a quick, like towards the end of the session, I'll give a quick walkthrough of how we can go and explore those elements as well. But let's say there's a car, there are 200 plus sensors, and then you want to process data coming in from various points and see them in a dashboard and make predictions. Even if you don't want to make predictions, you want to see things in real time, because even a slightest microsecond of delay would change the game for you. So that's when a lot of interesting F1 teams, whose name I'm not entitled to say, like they use Pathway. So like there are cool set of people. Like if you're working on streaming, you can do these things. Essentially these are built, like Pathway's framework is built on Rust, but it's exposed via Python. So you don't need to know Rust. Don't worry about that. But the good thing is that you're getting the best of both worlds. You are getting the compute, the lightness of Rust, which makes Pathway so fast, and then also like the benefits of Python ecosystem. So that's, and talking about the team, it's a very small company. Like when I say small group of researchers, like barring 3-4 people, like, almost everybody is a PhD or postdoc at cool labs. And if you're from a competitive coding platform, most people are like ICPC medalists. Like they're a competitive coding medalist actually. So that's a cool stuff. If you've heard about like these, if these logos like sound, moving on to the bootcamp actually. So if by the way these logos you have seen them at some point in time of your journey, then this bootcamp will help you understand them better. Okay, so you might have very likely heard about LangChain, probably OpenAI, Llama Index, Pathway, Mistral, Llama 2, Olama. These are like Gemini, of course. These are very popular names that are existing out there. And you might wonder what they do. What is LLM? What is RAG? So this is something, this session that we're looking at, it will give you a quick introduction to that. So you understand this, you get a very clear clarity of what you can expect from the bootcamp. Okay. Um, some of the course creators, like this entire bootcamp, the name, very important name is missing here, which is Data Science Group at IIT Roorkee, which is purely because of my uh, like my it's on me. I missed to mention the name, but kudos to them. We have this session itself and the entire bootcamp going on. In collaboration with that, these course creators include some of the smartest folks. We have Jan, who's the CTO of Pathway. As Anupriya mentioned, he has worked with Joshua Benji and Joe Finton. You can Google these people actually as the like the godfathers of AI. These are people who have made some really interesting contributions. For example, Bengio is known for, I think, popularizing neural networks. Um, so anyway, we have Jan, we have Adrian. Adrian did his PhD at 20. He co-founded Spoj. So if you've been into competitive coding, he's like Spoj was one of the oldest competitive coding platforms and the biggest ones. I used to head business for Coach at some point in time, like, and that's when I got to know him. He like obviously I was kind of fanboy at some point in time. He's been into 15 plus years into research. Has also taught at Ecole Polytechnique. One of we have Sergey. Sergey is an IOI gold medalist. Previously head of search service at Yandex. Yandex is the Google of Russia. Barkev, that's me, and then Saksham. Um, Saksham is from the IT ecosystem. He's an IT Delhi grad, and previously he was with NTU for a while. And then like moving forward, now let's talk about LLMs. I would be very like quick in asking this question. How many of you know what LLMs are or have built applications? Maybe you can put that in comments. Or you can share, by the way, you can share where you are in your LLM journey. That will be an interesting thing to know. For example, hey, I'm already building applications in production for these companies. That's an interesting, that will be quite an interesting insight to know. I see a hi from Anjali. Hi, Anjali. I'm expecting maybe you would also go ahead and share how much you have progressed in your journey. And others can also share, by the way. I see there are a lot of people. Okay, cool. Well, makes sense. I think you are probably trying to share that you already know about these things. I have a hands raised by SG. So I do not know your name, but then yeah, thanks. I'll just show these things. So we have SG, we have Anjali, we have Tirthankar. I've Thomas says I've used ChatGPT, that's all, never built or modified one. Cool. By the way, a very interesting question to ask. Okay. We see more comments coming in. So there's some lag that we see here. So there's Pranjal, yes, work for production over site tech. That's interesting. A bit on Karpati's video. Karpati's videos are obviously good. There's anonymous Soumyanani. There's Ajutajit Bhattacharya, who's also saying hi. So we have a good set of responses. Jimmy says that they have worked on used API of Cloud AI and Mistral AI and Gemini. Would be interesting to know where you use the API. So yeah, more and more responses are coming in, which is good. Nice. So okay, for one project, that's interesting. Cool. So we have quite a few responses, which is first of all very good to know. I would definitely be looking forward to seeing your names in the boot camp as well. Like when you interact, I would uh, certainly try to remember it, and I think it's a journey which is going to be exciting. Shikha is saying that she used RAG for HR chatbot, which is interesting. Yeah, that's a very prominent use case. So without like any further ado, let's move forward. Like yes, LLMs are the talk of the town. ChatGPT is a very popular LLM application. Okay. And when you talk about LLMs, GPT in ChatGPT is an LLM. Okay. It's a large language model. So if you've heard about GPT-3, GPT-4, GPT-2 was, I remember there was a time when when it was launched, people were like, oh, transformer architecture is the next big thing. It's absolutely crazy. Then GPT-2 was like, oh, it has changed the world. I remember looking up to the likes of like, there were startups like, I think okay, Pepper is a bit Spilani grad, but yeah, there startups like them who were like really making cool stuffs with GPT-2 API, and we were like, okay, this is absolutely crazy. And then came GPT-3 and ChatGPT, like which literally changed the game for everyone, and a lot of things happen after that. It's the AI boom. We are in the LLM era right now. Okay, so yeah, and I would love to put out this question like, how many of you think that you can build a better application than ChatGPT? That's an interesting question to ask. And by the way, there's a very interesting caveat here. But then, if you think you can build a better application, when I say better, better is subjective, and that's where the caveat is, by the way. But how many of you think you can build a better application than ChatGPT, or you can create a better version for it for some of the users? You think you can do that? I don't think we have the resources, says Thomas. Okay, and I'm talking about ChatGPT, by the way, not GPT. But then yes, cool. So I mean, a very small thing here is that yes, you can do that, and how you can do that, that's very interesting. We'll cover that very quickly. You'll get to know like where exactly the gap is that you can fulfill. And there's a reason why I clarified why I said not a better version of GPT but ChatGPT, and better is contextual. Okay, so we'll come to that. So generative AI, what is it like? Okay, basically, if you remember, by the way, an interesting thing is like just to understand this entire spectrum better. Generative AI has been there for a while now. Like we are seeing ChatGPT and all right now, but the likes of deepfakes, which were originally built on GANs and all, they've been there for a while now. We have been hearing about deepfakes since the past few elections. Actually, I remember seeing those videos of Donald Trump, and well, I'm quite sure all of us would have seen those. And traditionally, if you look at it, like these things have been there. And if you look at GAN architecture, it used to have something like this. You would have a generator and a discriminator, which would be like, okay, fair enough, let's generate things, basis a few things, and let's observe if it is given the outcome that it should. The generation is happening like it should be. Like, for example, the image of a dog, is it looking like a dog? It's not looking at it like a dog. Then it will be like, okay, let's go back, which is essentially called as back propagation. It will go back and then, do something like adjusting the weights or improve the model to make a better output, to generate a better output. So like these, we have been seeing GANs and deepfakes for a long while now. It's not that we're seeing it for the first time. But then what changed the game? It was this particular element, which is attention mechanism and transformer architecture. And by the way, the guy here, Lukash Kaiser, he's one of the like contributors to a module of this bootcamp. He's a co-creator of ChatGPT, obviously, co-creator of TensorFlow, and a few other small names. Obviously, sarcasm intended. But so there is this thing that became really popular, which is called as attention mechanism and transformer architecture, which really made it possible to now work to add a lot more layers and create models which are trained on a lot more data. Like practically think of data at the scale of the entire internet and even beyond that. What do you mean by even beyond that? Like people like OpenAI and the creators of it, they actually went ahead and procured licensed data from various vendors. That's quite obvious. I don't know if I've read it or not. Like, I mean, this is something like if you read these bits or not. But these models are big, they train on a lot of data, and that made them really powerful. So you got the LLM advantage suddenly. Like the GPT came out, and it gave a lot of possibilities. Now you had these models which were trained on an extremely huge amount of data and huge amount of compute, which is why actually Thomas said when he said that I don't think we have the resources. This is what he meant. But then you have the ChatGPT, of course. You have the GPT, and then there's this thing like transfer learning and in context learning. Like these models, these LLMs are extremely good at okay, if at transfer learning, and if you give it just the right context, it will give an absolutely awesome answer. So what is transfer learning? Like in a very simple manner, let's say you know how to play cricket. I can say that learning baseball is not very difficult. Just learn a few things here and there, and then you'll be good to go. In absolutely basic way, that's where you can assume transfer learning to be. And in context learning is like, okay, fair enough. So since you're so good at learning things with some context, let me give you the right context and you will get it. And that's what LLMs do. Okay, so this means that if you're able to give it the right context, it can do wonders. And the entire domain of RAG, as we'll see earlier in the bootcamp, revolves around this bit in itself, which is giving just the right context. Then comes like the power of continuous improvement and RLHF. And RLHF is reinforcement learning via human feedback. We'll get into that sometime later. Um, but these models, they continuously improve. Okay, there is like when you are interacting with these models, what they do essentially is they retrieve the most relevant. There's a retrieval that happens here as well for those of you who are already into RLG. So they retrieve the most relevant bits from your interaction with these platforms, and then they continuously modify and improve their models with humans in place. There are literally humans who are working on these models and like who are processing these data that they're garnering. So that's why HF, human are reinforcement learning with human feedback. And then they have an insanely good multitasking abilities and easy prototyping capabilities. Like earlier when we used to build the model, we used to have a separate API for everything. Like I remember building a project while using Summarizer API. It was quite cool. It was published by the likes of Harvard or something like that. It was the talk of the town, and we use it in one of the projects. It was interesting. But now you don't need a different API for different things, or if a different model, I would say. Okay, like if you want to do translation, you want to do summarization, you want to do voice generation, anything. You just simply pick a very popular LLM, and you will know that you will at least be able to create a prototype that shows whether there is a business use case or not. Okay, and that's why this became really popular in the case of you know um, in the case of companies. Like they are like, okay, let's move very fast, let's experiment and build things and see if they are giving a business impact at the end of the day or not. That's quite an impressive thing that has opened up, and this has actually like made it quite powerful. But then the problem is, and by the way, we'll be diving deeper into some of these aspects if you're feeling that it's very superficial. This entire boot camp is focused on RAG. You'll get to know that better by the end of the session. But then still, yeah, like the point is that there's a slighter depth in extended layer of understanding for these bits as well in the coursework. So where does the stand like but where does the standalone LLM fall short? And that's where the question that I put circles back to. Like, okay, fair enough, you have ChatGPT, but where does it fall short? And the answer is, first of all, GPT excels at answering questions, but only from topics on its training data. So, for example, let's say I'm running in a hypothetical world. Let's say I'm a professor at IIT Roorkee, which I'm not, obviously, and there are some internal documents that I want to work on. Or let's assume this. And we'll see the use cases going forward. Let's say there are some data or information that is very centric to my organization only. Then the chat GPT doesn't know it, or things that are after the cutoff date. What is cutoff date? Like, if you would look at these models, they would usually say that, you know what, it only knows events till this date. Like, so for example, and these dates keep on changing. So this is some, like, I think I picked it from a place, but then these dates could have been very well changed by now. But the point is that it's not real time. Okay, like something has happened yesterday. For example, we are seeing some very interesting set of events in India. We are seeing the Olympics have concluded. There's a lot of discussions around it. There are some really important discussions going on this on the segment beyond that. So those things are happening, and then those are not known by the chat GPT. Then your non-public documents, like things which are very centric, they are not publicly accessible, then they are not known. Then information from past conversations, like right now LLM chat GPT, they have in chat GPT plus they have the option of memory. I don't know if it's in the unpaid option, but a lot of LLM applications, they don't have the option of memory. And even deleting memory is very difficult. Like, if something is captured, I remember there was a very funny thing. I had shared about some very random stuff that somebody had reached out to me, let's say getting a job or something like that. How do I get it? And I showed him a few examples of prompt engineering, that, this is how you can get it, blah 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 blah, a few things we were exploring together. And then I was like, I just made a very simple prompt, like, okay, who's Jan Chorosky? So by the way, if you ask to ChatGPT who's Jan Chorosky, Jan is this, like Jan is spelled as this. So I asked him who's Jan Chorosky, and it ended up giving an absolutely bizarre answer, because it had not deleted that information. So it started saying like this, and then he is looking for jobs after placement from this IIT, which is absolutely nonsense. Okay, so I mean, these things they are okay at, but if you look at it this way, like let's say that I'm asking a doubt, and then we have a doubt that somebody else from, let's say Thomas, is asking it out again. Now if both of us are asking the same question every single time, it's not that, okay, because two people are asking the same question, so let me give them the answer every time. It will run the compute, basically. That's the point. So if in a company or in a boot camp, let's say I have to create a RAG which helps people learn and ask doubts about this particular boot camp, and I want, okay, fair enough, that okay, if Mudit and Devansh are asking the doubts, then I don't want to run my, spend my compute over and over again. I should be able to do it in, like, from the previous history, from, let's say, something like cache memory. They don't have it, and then they don't have access to real time data. So these are some very common things. So what you can do as a builder, as a creator, is that you can use them to you can use them to create an application which is more which is better at a particular use case. Okay, so by the way, I got slightly um, distracted. One second. Oh, one second. Okay. So basically, yeah. So I'm seeing a few points here. Like, we like there are a few things that people have posted, which is quite interesting. We'll cover them. We'll cover them towards the end. I see a comment by Pranjal. There's an anonymous comment. This by Rushikesh, by Tirthankar. So we'll cover these bits. Okay. So these are some of the problems that you can address very well if you are actually using building LLM applications that, for example, are able to access contextual data and build, give solutions which otherwise ChatGPT wouldn't do. So let's see this with examples. Like let's say one is like, let's say you are the CEO of Netflix. Let's say Anupriya is the CEO of Netflix, and Devansh is a senior engineer at Amazon. Okay. Now, in that case, let's say Anupriya is asking like, okay, tell me what is the usage of how many people are sharing passwords in Roorkee, something like that. Okay. Now, the point is, ChatGPT has no clue to this. ChatGPT has no access to this data. But the point is, this is LLM era, and people want you to use it and be very fast at it. Now, one option is that she goes and searches this on the internet, or from the local database, and then tries to retrieve it, and then run some few queries and then gives it manually. Other option is that she copy pastes the entire stuff, and then the chat gpt gives an answer and she sends it ahead. But then you are breaching the privacy of the company, right? I mean, obviously, I'm quite sure the CEO wouldn't want you to go ahead and simply expose your data on public platforms like ChatGPT, which clearly says that your data will be used for training their models. In fact, they have their premium versions as well, which many companies, by the way, are quite hesitant to use. In one of the sessions that we were hosting, as a part of this boot camps initiative itself, it was with the head of data science at NPCI. NPCI is National Payments Corporation of India, the makers of UPI, IMPS, like PhonePe, BharatPe, all the PPP. They use UPI underneath. So, like the point is, he said they use LLMs, and they interestingly have an entire H100 cluster at their place. The interesting stuff is that they said that we don't use any LLMs. Given the criticality of a use case, we can't use. We don't use any hosted LLM. So they use an open source model and build it completely locally. So the privacy is an important issue. Then second example is of Amazon. Let's say Devansh starts with building an application that helps its users to search, like, okay, tell me which hoodies went on a discount over the past 1 week. Okay. Now, obviously, getting that at a search is helpful. No, it's like I'm entering a Zara store and I clearly know the shirts that I want. Like, give me, this size of shirt which are at this price range, which are at discount right now. Like, we go and ask the person that way, and you can do these things with LLMs. But the problem is that LLM doesn't know. Again, it does not have the real time data, and so you can solve these kind of use cases quite very well. And this is something that we know there's a huge demand around it. Like McKinsey, I think it gave this number last year, and I'm quoting it since then. But then it said, and I'm quite sure my peers at Pathway will have better stats to share, but it said that it is expected to add value of 2.6 trillion to 4.4 trillion annually. And the thing is that companies, they need GenAI tools to work with their data while ensuring privacy, security, and optimal costs. And but they run into issues like extensive manual effort, training the models is extremely expensive, not easy. Even fine tuning is not easy. Privacy, real time vector indexing, and these things are kind of the issues that we deal with. And then these models are also good at something that we call as hallucination. What is hallucination? Like, I remember this is something that dates back to a long time. When this entire view started, we were discussing about this, that one of the professors actually, he's a known guy, he said this, that it's like it is very good at giving educated bullshit. Okay, like educated, sorry, he did not say the word entirely, he said BS. Okay. The point that he was trying to make is that it'll give you an answer which looks very real, but the thing is, it's not real. Okay, like RAG, what is RAG? It will give a random answer, like retrieve. It's retrieval augmented generation, but it can say retrieval added generation, and it'll look real. It'll make some sense, and you will simply go and copy paste it. But what about if it's in a company use case, like the Netflix example, where the CEO is asking data? Would he give a hallucinated answer? And for that reason, hallucination became the word of the year in 2023. Okay, and this is actually an excerpt from that itself, which is quite interesting. And then the problem is, again, apart from privacy, you also have this option of, like, you can say you can fine tune the models, which is something that one of our mates, our friends here actually suggested that Rushikesh actually mentioned we fine tune pre-trained models, which is actually true. We do fine tune models, and but there's a caveat here. Like, what if you have to work with data that is changing regularly? Okay, so how do you go about dealing with those use cases? Like, okay, fair enough. You fine tune a model, and then what next? Like in the Amazon use case or Netflix use case, the data has changed. Then how do you again fine tune it again tomorrow? You can't keep on fine tuning models every single day. You're talking about labeling data and then spending an extremely huge amount of compute to improve a model. And interestingly, even if you look at the API for retrieve for embedding creation, that's something that is very integral in the use case of RAG, and the API of fine tuning. I think the embeddings API is roughly 80 times cheaper. So there's a cost element also here, and there are other aspects as well. That's something which we have covered in the boot camp. To give you a very quick introduction, for example, things like you can say that, yeah, fair enough. Like being able to control things. For example, you want to say remove from the training data of, why do the LLMs hallucinate? There are some reasons, but let's say you want to remove all the wrong things from the training data. Like you want to remove this thing that, okay, how to make bombs. You want to remove it completely from the training data of ChatGPT. Now that's not easy. How to remove how to make bombs? You can't completely easily remove it. Why? Because now it's there, pretty much there, right? So the way you typically address this is by having some external elements, which is done with the help of RAG. Now, and a very easy way to describe RAG is that, okay, so by the way, before we go to that, so the thing is that organizations are trying to figure out how they can become GenAI first. They want to become GenAI first, they want to be safe, they want to not end up incurring a bomb of cost, and they want to keep things minimalistic and scalable. And the good thing is that by the end of this bootcamp, you'll be able to address these concerns for them. You'll also build projects, open source projects that will using Docker, which will solve these business use cases or social use cases. Okay, so that's the interesting element. What we will learn here is, we'll start by introduction of LLMs and GenAI. By the way, I'll give a very quick introduction of RAG. For those of you who do not know, this is how I usually do this. Like RAG is retrieval augment generation. Like we said, okay, fair enough. LLMs do not have access to things which came out yesterday. So why don't you give that? And that's what actually somebody mentioned. Um, okay. So for example, let me pick that bit. Yep. So Pranjal actually mentioned, but now some LLM use search real time. Yeah, for example, Perplexity AI, they use real time search. Okay, so in fact, there are developers who have used for real time search pathway as well. The thing is, that's interesting, but it is actually an extension of RAG itself. What you're doing is you're building something called as an agent that is going and doing a particular job and performing those tasks for you. Okay, so what you're doing is you are like, it is not going and training these models essentially. Like let's say you have the entire document corpus or the entire corpus of information. So what it will do is, like in a particular examination, if you have to in an open book test, saying that, okay, you can't learn things at the 11th hour, but what you can do is in an open book test, if you know where to look for it, you'll simply go there, and because you're so good at understanding things from the context, you'll simply pick that up and replicate the answer. Okay, that's what this meme is also doing. But yeah, so if you're able to give it just the right context, retrieve just the right thing, augment what it was otherwise going to generate, then your RAG based LLM applications will give a lot better answers, a lot better use cases that were otherwise not possible. And if you've heard about the terms like agents, they're an extension of RAG itself. You add some particular set of things on top of it that enable to perform more applications. Let me zoom this for you. Yeah. So and we'll see how you can cover these elements, and it is done way more minimalistically with pathway. So we'll understand how to do that as well. But this is what actually helps you reach there. And by the end of this bootcamp, you will be at that point. And is it something which is valued by the companies? 100% yes. RAG is the type is like the requirement of the companies right now. It's a lot of people, they are actually, when we recruit, like I will talk about my personal experience. I would not speak for the company, but then when I was hiring, I saw a lot of people bring data science projects which are around fine tuning a model or creating a model or doing things like that, which is good. But then most companies, they're using APIs today or like open source models and working on top of it. if you're able to bring those elements which are actually showcasing those skills as well, or at least your interest to learn those things, that okay, fair enough, I built this minimalistic project, it is there, and now I'm focusing on other things. Those things are extremely good. And when we'll be like towards the end of the bootcamp, we'll drive you to create projects which have some business or social use case. We'll literally make it mandatory for you to have a very clear readme on your open source projects. Why? Because recruiters look for those aspects. So if you're somebody who's looking for job, who wants cool projects on their profile, so that will be helpful for you. Okay. This is the rough structure of the coursework. We'll start with introduction of LLMs and Gen AI. We'll then jump into word vectors and vector embeddings. This is the goal is to help you build an RAG application, and it's just a 3-week course. So obviously we'll not go in extreme depth. And in the coursework, you'll find something called as bonus resource mentioned at multiple places. Bonus resources are those which are like which may have an additional prerequisite. For example, I remember somebody asked like if Python proficiency is good. Okay, so good enough. So yeah, like it is good enough. You can totally build with that, but there are certain elements which may require you to know a bit more things, so they are tagged as bonus. But this also means that you do not need to necessarily know those bonus items to be able to build your own project. That's the good part here. Like even if you don't know those bonus items, you can still go and build your project, and it'll, like, if it is good enough, then it will be accepted. Okay. Okay, and apart from that, let me just move forward. I think this QR, I am not 100% sure if it will work right now. Let me just, before you scan, let me show it to you for now. And I think this link will be available in the next 15-20 minutes. But let me share a different link in that case, so you can go and start seeing it. Once again, I'll give a quick walkthrough so it doesn't like like you can work on it. But okay, I'm just opening this. This link is yet to be like it is, I think, being deployed right now. But before you all scan it, I think I think I hope you have already registered, by the way, all of you, because it's slightly necessary. So before that, like, let me just wait for a few moments. Like if it is like, let's wait for 5-10 minutes. If it's not ready, then I'll show you the like I'll show you. We'll look for workarounds. We do have those workarounds. But then if it is ready, then we don't have to go in that direction at all. But in the interim, let me pick a few questions like before we go there. Okay, and I'll rather pick some other slide which is more relevant in nature. Okay, so the first thing is like, okay, fair enough. Will there be a verified project by the end of this boot camp? Yeah, thanks Devansh. I think that's Devansh who's answering this, by the way. He's with me on this link. Yeah. Uh, yeah, for IIT Roorkee students, the verification of projects will be done by data science group. But in general, for all participants after the completion, you will receive certificates. Yeah, you will receive certificates. You will receive goodies as well. By the way, I don't know if you know this. So there are goodies for everyone who complete the project. Goodies include T-shirts. For top projects, you'll be getting something like Xbox controllers, like speakers, and a couple of other cool things. Okay, so you can definitely ask your cool friends to join you on this journey, because when you submit your project, if it's with, like, naturally when you're learning on a learning journey with your friends, your probability of completing the boot camp increases by 75%. Now that's a random stat that I just threw, but the point is you can get your friends along. It will definitely make it easier for you to complete the boot camp. Okay, and yeah, there are prizes to win for the top projects. And then there is there's one question which is very contextual. I'll pick it. Then will somebody with basic Python knowledge be able to work with this? This is something that is already answered. GPT-4 uses tools for that. I think I am slightly confused what is that here, but yeah. This, sir, is SLM a solution to resource usage? SLM is, by the way, small language model. I think that's the full form, but basically smaller version of LLMs. And yeah, they are seen as a viable option. But the point is, the goal of companies many times is that they should first build a working prototype. It should work. It should clearly show that you know yeah, it should clearly show that it's working, and then then you can go ahead and like optimize on the cost later on. Okay, and then there are other elements as well that companies typically use, because LLMs, they do give you a lot of advantages. Like the current state of the art, we on Pathway's website, you will see a lot of resources which are around which are around I'm sorry, which are around which are around multimodal RAG, and they require you to use multimodal models. And if you're using open source models, that becomes a bit more complicated. If you're using GPT-4o, that becomes easier. So yeah, there are advantages, and companies, they do know it. Yeah, fair enough. Now, there's a question that is asked here. What's the difference between this bootcamp and the previous ones we have done with IIT BHU and IIT Kanpur in terms of curriculum? So, a couple of differences here. So, one is that the hands-on module has been improved. There are some improvements in the vector modules as well, which we'll be communicating via email when we start that particular module. And apart from that, it's the baseline curriculum is more or less the same. The hands-on module has a bit more advanced use cases now. So if you've like already been a part of that bootcamp, you can now possibly start this particular curriculum to build a more advanced stuff, and we are there to support you in your journey. By the way, in Pathway is not an edtech company; it's an open source framework maker, right? So anyway, if you are building things on your own, even then you can pretty much go and ask the doubts on the Discord forum. There are a lot of people who to help you out as community friends. But if you're part of the boot camp, your doubts can be answered by your peers as well. And there's a DSG team, there's Pathway team who's also more active. Okay. What vector DB will we use here? So Pathway it has its own vector store that we will recommend using in this particular case, and we will come to that. So you can use a different vector DB, as that's not the recommended bit. You will be using Pathway's vector store. It's not a database, by the way. So Pathway enables, this is a very technical bit. So Pathway enables you to, when I say very technical, I don't think that it's something that you can't understand, just that beyond the scope of what we've discussed. So Pathway helps you build in-memory vector indexes. Basically, you can build vector stores without the use of vector database. You can build RAG application without the use of vector database, and they can still learn things in real time. That's the good aspect here. Okay, so those things are there, like, but we'll cover that later on. Now let me go and quickly show you the page that I was talking about. Let me just hide this one. Yeah, cool. I'll share this tab. Okay, can you see my screen? Okay, so the link of this page is like this kickoff session is there. I'll be replacing this with a 3-4 minute video of the walkthrough of the bootcamp, so you can go and cover this. Okay, so one thing that we request you is, like, it really helps me to also share how and see how our boot camps are driving a community impact, is that if you can go and start a repository, that will be really kind of you. So and apart from that, also when you're building projects, we would love to keep a track, help add value to you. If there's any area where we see, okay, I've built this project, we can possibly recommend you better things that you can use, obviously without any cost involved, then we'll do that. So, but this is not to like collect and use your data in random places, but can get started by entering a name and GitHub username. Okay, and then there's this kickoff session link, obviously. Once this page is live, you will, like, by tomorrow or so, we'll see a 3 or 4 minute video recorded here, and then the kickoff session link will obviously be there. I'll also give you a quick gist of the coursework link. This is how it generally would look. This you will receive once you have come in, like, if I have the liberty to say that, once you have started us. Okay, like, and then but that's not a mandatory stuff, honestly. Like, that's something that we totally strongly recommend you to do, invite you to do. But then, yeah, once you start the repos, once you have filled the registration form on the email that you've provided, you'll receive an email with the resources that you can go ahead and follow. And this link I'll share with you all after this particular bootcamp. You'll receive it by today EOD. I can share it now as well. But then I think once the page is live, I'll share the page link on the WhatsApp group. If you're not there, then please join it. The page will be live in roughly 30-40 minutes from now. Okay. So here you will see that this time, as an experiment, we have released all the modules. We'll be making optimization to them. So if you're very curious to get started with them and learn them right away, then you can do that. Or else you might see some. So the thing is that we have recommended the dates when you can learn it. Like 21st August is today, so you can learn basics of LLMs, then word vectors, then prompt engineering, refresher module, origin LLM architecture, and hands-on development. I don't know. I think I made some mistake there. You know that. And then project development and track submission. Obviously we'll have to submit your projects to be able to get those prizes. So, but yeah, prizes or t-shirts whatsoever. But then yeah, your motivation should be to, make an impact and have a cool project on your profile. And you will see these bonus resources like this. By the way, this says bonus resource. Here you will see bonus resource. The entire bit around transformer architecture and all are actually, bonus resources. They do require additional set of things. So yeah, that's what the bonus resource is all about. This is how the course, structure will look like. The hands-on module, for if you've attended any of our previous resources in the past, so you will observe some differences there, and it's already significantly easier and better to follow. But then there are other elements as well that you might see changes on. So yeah, or else if you feel that you already know the stuff, I can show you a very quick element where you can easily simply navigate through Pathways website and build things on your own. Let me also do that. So it'll like, will we dive deep into the maths behind LLMs? Deep is a very subjective thing, Anonymous. So this question is from Anonymous, by the way. So that's why I said Anonymous. So deep is quite subjective here. Given the timeline, we are not going to dive deep, but we will touch base upon it. Like we'll scratch the surface. So that's the case. Like it's something that we've seen that people love math. So yeah, we will cover that. And it's not about you loving it, but the fact that you also feel it's important. The website of Pathway is very simple. It's pathway.com, by the way. So you can simply go there. Okay. Yeah, we'll skip that bit. So you go to simply app templates. Okay. So in app templates, you will find a lot. These are basically things that you code walk through that you can easily copy end to end and build it on your own. So you can find applications on like around data engineering as well. When you click on data pipeline or time series, like, and on LLMs, they're by default and on the front. Okay, so you can go there and you can find a step-by-step thing that you can easily follow. For example, if you open this multimodal drag bit, this is also by an IIT KGP electrical guy who's a part of my team. He's a good friend. So so this MMRAG template, by the way, you can go, if you go there, you can simply follow the code step-by-step walkthrough and you will be able to build the stuff. So you will find these things. If you're already in the RAG journey and you want to skip the entire bootcamp bit and be really, really fast, then you can go there. But if you're new to this, we would totally recommend that you follow the bootcamp and then build stuff with us. Any other questions that you have, I'll be happy to answer it. The course, this particular page link that is yet to be like made public, so you can access it in a few hours from now on the WhatsApp group. Can we do all of this in collab, or do we need some heavy software installation? No, you can do this in collab. You can do it locally also. We recommend Docker quite strongly, and it does not require some very strong compute. Like, yeah, you can do this if you just need 8 GB of free space and internet access, which I believe you would have. If you have a good internet, you will have, if you are at campus, you can actually do. Okay, just a second. Yep. What does there's a question, what does Pathway actually do? So I'll also do that. Is my link being, yeah, I'll just go back to this. I'll go to the home page. So when you look at, by the way, if you go to the developer docs, it gives a very good description of Pathway. So Pathway is a data processing framework at the crux of everything. Okay, so when you look at LLM app, you can search for LLM app. I think this should come first or second usually. But let's say you search for pathway.com. I think, and by the way, starting it is easy. It's inviting you and nudging you to start it again. So like you can't start it again, but if you've not started the repo already, go ahead and do that. I think my net is slow, but yeah. So this is where you start the repos. You need to sign in. I'm not signed in right now, but if you go to pathway.com and you go to pathway, right, that's where you'll see the main framework of pathway. Okay, so it's an ETL framework, which is extract, transformation, load, real-time analytics, real-time ML, LLM pipelines, RAG. These are some of the common use cases. What it does at the crux of, okay, I did not share this thing. Okay, sorry. I think now you can see this particular repo, pathway.com pathway. You will find the main engine of pathway that companies use mostly. And then if you come to this bit, like if I take you back to the developer documentation of Pathway, which is at pathway.com/developers. So you'll find it what it actually does. These elements are mostly around data engineering, and there are elements around LLM tooling. Okay. So it essentially it is based on differential data flow. It's an extension of it, exposed via a Python API, and yeah, it's the data processing framework. Simply said, yeah, it is used mostly in LLM applications, ETL, real time EPL streaming, and all those things. It's also used for batch. Batch is basically so what so. Let me give you this like very clear perspective here. So the very common reason why a lot of developers they use Pathway is also because you can build simple application. You are thinking of building a data application, you build it with Pathway, which is like in a traditional sense in batch, and then it runs it works very well. The moment you want to work connect it with a streaming, you wanted to learn things in real time like we humans do, simply connect it with a streaming source and change the mode to streaming and it starts working. That's the simplicity element of it. But most people would use Pathway for the latency bit. Like it's so light, so because it's light, that's why it's both fastest in fact, and it's the cheapest, both for the same thing. People use it for that. And for LLM tooling, it is an online vector store. So it provides an in-memory vector store that is very good for incremental indexing. So if you have things like data sources which are changing in real time and you want them to be updated in on real time basis, then Pathway is excellent solution to make it happen. Like companies, developers, otherwise they have to do a lot of clunky work to make it happen. It becomes extremely simple in this case, and it is scalable. So companies use it in production use case. Yeah, and you can also use it to connect with a lot of data sources. Okay. Can Pathway be used for data pipelines such as Apache Airflow? I mean, yeah, people they do use it. Like talking specifically about Apache Airflow, I think it should be doable. Yeah, but then you can ask it in the developer forum for any specific use case related answer that you're looking for. Yeah. Is there any other questions that we can answer? Yeah, sorry. Is there any other questions that we can answer? I'll still check by the way if the so page is still not published by the way. There's the Gitbook link is published. We'll share that with you once you have filled the form there, and we'll share the page link on the WhatsApp group. Cool. There are no other questions. Devansh, any closing thoughts or something like that before we close? I think by the way, and thanks a ton for organizing this. It's like quite wonderful. We have a lot of engaged
Mhm.
people, and I hope people are excited about this learning journey.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I guess it's like in the current scenario, it's pretty important that if you are doing AI ML, then you get to know how RAG works because even like the internship that I am doing at the moment, like my focus is towards AI security, but like I have discussed with a lot of co-founders or founders of various startups. They have mentioned that yes, RAG is like pretty important in their use case. So I think like this bootcamp would be pretty uh, helpful for everyone in general. And since like one of the like person like uh, attendees mentioned that will we be diving deep into the mathematics. So since we are keeping this a little like beginner friendly, that's why we can't like go into that much depth. Although if you want, like if you think that you require like you want to go into more mathematical depth, that then what we can do is we can add like some resources as add-on resource, additional resources, I guess. But
Yeah, or we can do something like a live
mhm.
session focused on a particular element.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
correct. Yeah.
I
But
think
those
like
things are,
apart from that, yeah.
by the way, there are resources which are anyway linked. So, which are basically, there are many cases where we felt that, okay, we can simply go and recreate stuff or create our own
Mhm.
stuff, but we felt that the one that is already existing are good. Some of them are Karpati's resources, for example. So, when we
Right.
felt that this is the right time to link them, we have also done that in those particular cases. So,
Mhm.
you can go and learn it that way. So, within the coursework itself, it's not that you will fall short of, okay, no, I could I knew everything that is there. I think that is very less likely to happen. Um, yeah.
Uh,
Sorry. Yeah. You want to take this?
no, I was just mentioning that there is a new question.
Okay. How will the bootcamp go? So you will be sharing the coursework link to you over email. So please make sure that you have like my email ID is at by the way at mudit@pathway.com. So you can once you receive it, you should start it. add myself to your contacts. That way, the future emails will not go to spam or promotions folder. Will not miss out on updates. We anyway have little to no bandwidth for sending any promotional stuff. That way, even if you subscribe to the newsletters of Pathway, you will mostly receive developer related resources that are released. Like some cool project is published that may be relevant for you, so you will receive that. You can do that here, by the way. I think if you go just, I think there should be, if you go to Path, your, I think, is my screen shared? No, it's not shared. No, I'll just do that one second. If you are on Pathway's website, um, go to homepage, go to blog. This is where you can go and subscribe. Okay. But the point is like, okay, like skipping that element, I would simply say that the way this particular bootcamp will go is that we will be sharing the link with you over email, and after that we will be covering these elements one by one. You will be receiving updates over email primarily. We'll have an office hour sessions to solve your doubt later on, and maybe a live session, but no promises yet, depending on the need exactly, because honestly this session, this entire curriculum right now also is quite exhaustive. So we will do those elements, and then yeah, that's how the session will be. Mostly it is recorded. It is not live, because we know that a lot of people they intern, and for us also it's like, yeah, fair enough, it's like taking out the time every day for like a live session. That is very difficult for us. We don't do it that way, but it's mostly recorded. Yeah. Is there a course schedule available somewhere? Yeah, it's on the it's on the link that I shared with you. I'll just show that as well. We will share that in the coursework link that you'll be receiving over email. You will be having that bit. Okay. And we'll be updating that on the bootcamp WhatsApp group as well. But please make sure that you're registered, because all the certificates and everything will go to the email itself. The updates will go to the emails. So yeah. Cool. I think we are at the end of the session. There are no other questions from the community. There's a question. Sorry. Does Pathway take undergrad interns? Are there any chances of them coming to IIT Roorkee for next season? So first of all, thanks a lot. Do we take undergrad interns? Yes, we take undergrad interns. In fact, the IIT Kharagpur electrical guy is an intern. So he's into the final year. Devansh knows him. I know him obviously, because he works with me. He's a colleague of mine. Um, so we do hire undergrad interns. Is there any chance for us coming to IIT Roorkee for an intern next season? There's a chance for anything and everything, is what I would say. Next season is quite far, so difficult to for me to comment right away. But why not? Like it's like, yeah, it's all these things are open to consideration. Generally, so far we have not hired on campus, because on campus placements, we do realize it comes with a lot of responsibility. Like if you're going there, if you're extending offers, you don't want to go and resign it. That's not the DNA of Pathway. When we hire, so we would want to you know, abide by it. And also, not just, it's not about resigning when we are going for placements there. We have to interview people quickly, hire them quickly. So those constraints are there. So far we have not done any in like any on campus placement in India so far. In fact, except Saksham, Bishanka, and me. Bishanka is the KGP guy. All of us, like most other people, are not in India. Nobody's in India apart from all three of us. So it is naturally a bit more difficult for us to go and recruit offline. But we can do things. We can do things if there are opportunities. Like we can, obviously, we're happy to look at it. So that's one of the reasons why, I mean, in a very, like from a mentor angle, if I have to say, it's always good to leave a great impression. You never know what opportunity you might get. I got to know the co-founders of I just had one call with this co-founders of Spotch 5 years ago, when they were like building something, and I was with Code Chef, and then I got into Pathway. So we never know how dots connect. Thank you very much, Pathway and DSG IITR, for wonderful session. Yeah, thanks. Thank you, everyone. I think, yeah, great work by DSG. Total kudos to them. I second anonymous. Yeah,
Uh,
thanks.
like, thanks, Mudit, for this session. It was great having you here. Yeah. Okay, so I guess if there are no more questions, then we can end.
Cool. Thanks. I think my internet is lagging, but I do get the
Yeah, I think
towards the
so.
end. So Yeah. Okay. Anyway, thanks everyone, and we'll see you in the boot camp. Although, by the way, one very important thing is that there's a Discord channel for asking doubts. WhatsApp in WhatsApp it becomes a bit difficult to share
Mhm.
code, particularly one. Second, if you've addressed that doubt in other forum in the past, then it is even more complicated. So it is mostly there. On Discord, there's a dedicated Discord channel for this boot camp. So yeah, we can use that. Okay, you will receive all those information. Okay, thank you everyone. Bye. Take care. See you in the boot camp.
Bye, Madhu.